Hey guys, welcome back to BPGR Unloaded, and today we're going to talk about tips for concealed carry. So there's a lot of things you're going to hear from different people who are going to try to give you their recommendation or force what their opinion essentially is onto you. And to be quite frank, none of that really matters because it's going to come down to what you're comfortable with. So I have both firearms here that I use for concealed carry. I have my RM380 and my Smith & Wesson 9mm. I normally carry the 9mm. The 380 is great. I carry it as well, and we're going to get into all of this. So the best thing I can recommend is before you go get your concealed carry, go test out some firearms. Most shooting ranges will let you try out some weapons and rent some firearms from them, so you can test out some different calibers, test out some different firearms that you might be interested in. The place I go, which is called Vance's, they do sports and stuff along those lines, like archery and all that kind of outdoors stuff. But they have an indoor shooting range, and I can pay $10 to try out a firearm before I buy it. And if I decide to buy it, that $10 goes towards that firearm purchase. So the 380 is, again, a great little carrier. And the reason why I'm going to keep kind of specifying the size here is the size is going to matter tremendously when we're talking about your body size. So it's easier for certain body sizes to conceal certain firearms in different positions than other body sizes. So for example, when I carry the 380, I normally use what's called a pocket holster. And then I just put this in my pocket. It has rubber grips and I can pull it right out. So I can carry this in a lot of situations where I might not be able to use a inside the belt holster or the belly band to conceal the 9mm. If I'm wearing a medium-sized shirt, I cannot conceal this guy on my person because it will show or print pretty much any way that I hold it. Printing is a big thing that we're going to focus on here too, because you want to also keep in mind that if you're printing, that means it's going to be obvious to someone who is paying attention that you have a firearm on you. Now, you don't want the person to know for the sheer fact of if they do, and that person decides that they're going to hold up a store or something, or maybe mug you, and they know you have a firearm, you're not probably going to not get shot at that point. There's a really good chance that if he has a firearm, you're getting shot. If he doesn't, and maybe he has a knife, he might stab you. He might try to take your gun from you. But that's part of concealed carry, is you don't want them to know that it's on your person. So printing, you don't want to adjust the firearms. Like if I have it at a appendix carry and all of a sudden I'm kind of riding a little bit, I might slide it over, but you don't want to adjust where anyone can see you adjusting it either. So you got to be very mindful of your surroundings and stuff going on around you. I personally typically am good with however I put it. I'd like sometimes at 12 o'clock carry just because it's easiest for me to conceal my 9mm. When I'm at home, obviously I open carry. I've discussed that a lot, and a lot of that has to do with I don't want to have to fiddle with my shirt. If someone were to kick in my door, I just want to be able to have it out and ready to go. So be mindful of if you're printing or not. Be mindful of how well concealed your firearm is. And then also, you never want to draw from the drop. If someone already has a gun pointed at you, it would be a terribly stupid move for you to reach for your firearm under any circumstances. You should wait until they either are focused on something else and preoccupied, but you want to be very careful reaching for anything if someone already has a gun on you, because that's a great way for you to take a bullet. Now, we're going to talk about a couple other things here too, such as the ammo that you should be carrying and stuff along those lines. One thing that was really hard for me to get used to, and something I probably would have argued most people on, I do carry my safety on, but in that same instance, I also carry it around in the chamber. I know a lot of people that will argue and say that they don't feel comfortable carrying around in the chamber. But what you need to keep in mind is if I don't have that round in the chamber and someone's already waving around a gun, not only do I have to draw the firearm, but I have to be able to rack it back as well. So and don't get me wrong, this was really hard for me to get used to as well, but I recommend carrying a round in the chamber. Now, it's very rare or uncommon for a gun to discharge just because there is one in the chamber without something striking it. Quality firearm shouldn't ever fire without the trigger being squeezed or something actually hitting and striking the primer on the back of the round. Now again, I do keep my safety on my carry weapon. This guy does not have a safety, and I don't currently have a round in the chamber in this just because I wasn't carrying this today. But also keep in mind too, when you're buying your firearm for your concealed carry, not everyone feels comfortable shooting the same caliber. A 45 has great stopping power, but I can't conceal a 45 on my person, and that honestly might have too much kick for you. No one can make that decision for you. And a lot of people are going to tell you, oh, this gun brand is so much better than this gun brand. You're going to have a lot of block people. A lot of people are going to really push a certain firearm company on you, especially whichever one it is that they prefer. Don't let that ever sway your opinion on what you feel comfortable carrying. Do your own research, look it up. Obviously, I have a Remington pistol here. Remington's gotten some flack in the past for their pistols. I have a Smith & Wesson pistol here. This is the best-selling concealed carry firearm on the market, by the way. Smith & Wesson Shield's a great product. I feel very comfortable carrying either one of these. I've had a couple of failures to fire out of this, the 380. All of them have been with really cheap ammo and from what appears to be a very light hammer strike. Obviously, you'll have some people that'll tell you, oh, a 380 is too small for self-defense situations. Probably not. I wouldn't carry like a 22. A 22 I would probably think is going to be too small because it's a really small bullet with absolutely no stopping power. But 380 is almost a 9mm. We're going to talk about that in a different video though. So we've talked about printing, we've talked about different types of holsters here that you might need for concealed carry, and we've talked about the comfortability of what you're carrying. The other thing to really keep in mind, and I've been asked this a lot ever since starting this channel, is do you shoot to wound or do you shoot to kill? Well, I can tell you first and foremost that if I make the decision to draw one of these weapons out of their holster, it's going to be to kill. If my life is not in danger, I'm not going to draw my firearm. You don't want to shoot to injure because if the person does happen to survive it, or if the person does happen to be able to take that bullet pretty well, they can still draw their firearm, they can still injure you, they can still attack your family, whatever it is that they need to do. So by all means, if one of these comes out of their holster, I'm not shooting to injure the person. That, and then you also have the other part that you have to think about too. If that person's committing a violent crime, chances are it's not their first time committing that crime or a similar crime. So if they go back out on the street and then they hurt someone else, are you still going to feel comfortable about it, knowing that you could have stopped it all right there? Now maybe they do go to jail and they have that eye-opening experience to where they turn their life around. But the way our American penal system works, chances are they're not having that experience. So, the other thing we're going to talk about too is the type of ammo you should be carrying. So these are hollow point rounds. These are Hornady's hollow point rounds. And these are the I'm not going to remember exactly what they're called. They're in a silver package. So, you should carry hollow points. in your self-defense weapon. And the reason why is if you shoot a hollow point, that hollow point expands and slows down. It's going to create a bigger wound cavity, so it is going to do more damage internally than what an FMJ is, but it also has less likelihood of actually exiting the body than what an FMJ round does. So if I shoot a full metal jacket round, which is great for some range practice because FMJ is tremendously cheaper than what a hollow point is, and a hollow point literally just has a little hollow point at the tip, and that's what causes it to expand on impact. Essentially, if that FMJ goes through and you hit another person who's just an innocent bystander, you are still responsible for the damage that that causes. You are responsible for that projectile that you just fired. So that's kind of a big point to why you should always have FMJ ammunition or hollow point ammunition inside of your concealed carry weapons. I also have 3 full magazines for each one of these weapons right here. I've got 1 in the 380 and 2 outside of the 380, all 3 of which have hollow points loaded in them. I've got 1 inside of the Smith & Wesson, I've got 2 outside of the Smith & Wesson, and all loaded with hollow points in them. Which also brings me to my other point, make sure you're carrying extra ammo, at least a whole extra loaded magazine. And the reason why is in a self-defense situation, let's say that person isn't acting alone. Let's say maybe he has someone else there with him, but you don't know that at the time. And in most self-defense situations, you're going to dump the entire clip out of your handgun at that person or into that person. You're also not going to be aiming for a headshot. You're going to be aiming for center of mass. Whereas, yes, you know a headshot is going to do the most damage, but that's also a much harder target to hit, especially in a moving target situation. So you're going to put a bunch of rounds center of mass. Chances are you're going to clean that whole magazine out that you have loaded in there. Well, now my magazine's all expended. What happens if he has a buddy that comes up? That's why you need an extra magazine. What happens if maybe he doesn't actually go down? Maybe he's hopped up on some bath salts and takes the entire magazine perfectly fine. Well, drop it, load in the next mag, and you're good to go. So you always kind of want to be prepared. And you want to really take into account everything that could potentially happen. Now, there's some other things too, and this is something I still recommend. I still carry a knife on me. Now, I carry the knife because what happens if this jams? Unlikely, hasn't happened to me yet. What happens if the person grabs the top of it? If he has a hold of that slide, it ain't going anywhere. It's not like I can fire a round off. So, in a lot of those unexpected situations, you still want to have a fallback. The whole point of why you're carrying these is for self-defense. Almost every self-defense encounter happens at very close range. That is, again, why I recommend carrying a knife as well as a just-in-case. Obviously, we talked about non-lethal self-defense tools, and I told you where my stance is on all of those. This is my favorite knife, and this is the knife that I normally carry when I am not at work. And this is a Smith & Wesson Bodyguard, or a Border Guard, not the Bodyguard. Bodyguard's their .380 pistol. The Border Guard has a partially serrated blade, so if I did need to cut something for survival purposes or in a situation, maybe I get tied up in some ropes. Very unlikely, because no one carries rope, but I would still be able to cut the rope. I have a window breaker. I have a seatbelt cutter. It is a very good utility tool, and it also could save your life in a self-defense situation. So not only do I recommend you having a firearm on you, I would still recommend you have a knife on you as well. Even if what if the person winds, what if your gun drops? What if you get the gun knocked out of your hand? You've got to have something else to fall back on. And I don't know how many of us are going to be carrying 2 firearms on us at one time. That's a little unheard of. So just keep in mind though, as I said, buy a brand you feel comfortable in. Buy a caliber you feel comfortable in. Do your research. Figure out what you feel comfortable firing. The last time I was up at the shooting range, I ran into a guy who was talking about how he really wanted to buy a Glock 19. Glock 19 is I believe it's the 19, is very similar to the Smith & Wesson Shield 9mm. I let him try out my 9mm Shield since he was talking about the Glock. He's already shot the Glock, and he told me he preferred my Smith & Wesson, and I probably just saved that guy several $100s. It's not that Glock's bad. A lot of people love Glock and feel very comfortable with Glock in their hands. And it's not that I would tell you not to. It's that price doesn't always make a firearm great. So do your research on what you're going to feel comfortable with. Try some out. Give it a spin. And really think to yourself, are you going to be okay pulling that trigger in a situation where your life really depends on it, or the life of a family member or loved one really depends on it? Because that's essentially what your concealed carry is really doing for you. So I get a lot of people honestly tell me that they wouldn't shoot to kill, they would shoot to wound. I wish you luck on that. I'm not saying that's a terrible mindset. I'm just saying it's a risky one. But guys, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, be sure to click that subscribe button. Sorry, my neighbor's dog's out. I'm recording in the new BPGR vicinity for BPGR Unloaded, which is in my garage. And I have the door open, that way the sound doesn't bounce back into the camera. But if you have any questions for me about concealed carry, or what you think you should carry, or if this is sufficient enough, you can ask me in the comments down below. I'm glad to answer any questions that you guys might have. Some of them I might not honestly be able to answer for you. But guys, stick around. I'll see you soon. I'll have plenty more content coming for you.